Okay, everyone, good morning. Another in point with Dorin Anghelescu. I know I have been rather busy, like I'm sure most of you have, between helping friends move and other things and looking for work and taking every odd job I can get. And I sometimes get home so late that I don't get to make these as often as I would like. But I am going to continue. Um, Thank you for listening to the rant. And please don't forget to follow me on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter at Mr. Ben7 and Mr. Ben76. MRBENZ 7 and 76. Okay. Today's rant, I guess you can call it, is I watched the Republican debates like a lot of other people here did. And I am not real happy or thrilled with it. And as I'm sure many of you is not. Um, Here's my take on what happened on television. It was so embarrassing that this went out for the rest of the world to see the most obnoxious group of bigoted Republicans that we are putting upstage to run for president. And Varag, Mason Janat. I am embarrassed, very embarrassed. Let's start. Donald Trump, loud, obnoxious, bombastic, arrogant, full of himself and his own shit, and issued no apology whatsoever for Megyn Kelly asking him why he called women pigs, whores, and other things that are worse. His rationale for it is okay, he really only meant it about Rosie O'Donnell. Okay. And then not one of the contestants out there, not one was gentlemanly enough to call him out on it and say they do not feel the same way. Not one. Okay. Bad enough. Mike Huckabee, his usual God complex about he's the chosen one to lead the nation because the nation just went to hell because they voted for gay marriage and da-da-da-da-da. Mike Huckabee, if that is the case, then please explain to me why you are so grossly overweight and overindulgent when you have no physical self-control about putting and packing on the pounds with an overabundant amount of food. You are not taking any responsibility for your son going to camp and hanging animals like dogs out of trees until they die. And you make no apologies whatsoever for going out and supporting Josh Duggar after he was raised to be a serial sexual predator who molested at least 5 children that we know of, including his own sisters, and sent to be cleaned up by a law enforcement officer in Arkansas who is serving 56 years in prison for trafficking and child pornography. And somehow, it's okay with you, huh? Okay, you are total Looney Tune predator und the massa de pruns. You are out to lunch, Looney Tune fruitcake. Jeb Bush, you are not much different than your brother. You really are not. You have long-winded explanations for everything, including why you don't think that we need to spend more money, or why we even need to spend money at all on women's health care. I'm sorry, women stopped becoming a piece of property a long time ago, regardless of your biblical principles, because you say you oppose gay marriage. Okay, you want the biblical definition of marriage? Guess what? It does not mean you can have as many wives as you want. You get to have concubines on the side, that you get to marry your slaves, that you can sell your daughters for 2 camels and a cow, and that you own the woman because you put a ring on her finger. Okay? If you don't think God's law and God's word isn't changing, then explain how we have gotten this far and made progress as a human race with a little bit more respect toward each other than we had in the past in your biblical definitions. Okay? Rand Paul, you are still angry, and you come across as angry, and there are many Americans out there that are angry, but you do not seem to realize that they're angry at people like you. You will side with whatever side that seems to gin up the hate and ignorance in the base that uses our Christian faith to foment and promote their hate and prejudice. You are more than willing to pick a fight over everyone, with anyone, over everything. And while I understand why you suppose the NSA, National Security Agency, being able to download and store all of our phone conversations and emails and everything else I'm glad that you did it, but you have this much thing that you have done good, and then the rest of it is just growing exponentially, where people are just like, no, okay, and here is one. Okay, you're sold. I am one. Chris Christie, you have a lot of guts calling anyone an addictive personality, and you are afraid to legalize marijuana because it's going to turn addicts into people who continuously smoke pot, when you can't back away from the food trough long enough to go ahead and drop 350 pounds off of your great big fat ass. And you just about what? You break every chair you ever sit in? Okay, excuse me, go to a gym, lose some weight. I did it, okay? Lots of other people out there have did it. And then come back and talk about how a great president you would make after you ruined your state. Your highway department went out blocking roads and highways so people could not vote Democratic while you pretend that you have no responsibility for it and knew nothing. Oh, excuse me for swearing. Bullshit. Okay, no one is believing it and no one should. All right? Some of the others up there that were also rants that I hardly even remember. Ben Carson, okay? You talk eloquently, but you don't say shit, okay? You are still as far evangelical, right? And maybe you do go ahead and make a great surgeon, but just because you make a great surgeon, and a lot of you up there speak their minds, and everybody likes you because you speak your minds, does not mean you'd make a great president, okay? I have an uncle back in Romania who speaks his mind, who won't stop drinking, okay? That doesn't mean we need to put him into office, okay? And you want to know what affirmative action is? Affirmative action is when you have a rich family who have their sons born with a silver spoon in their mouth, who DUI'd and drank their way through Yale, blew lines of coke all the way through most of college, evaded any draft or military service while they decided to run for politics because their previous daddy did it, where you launched your campaign from a chair in the CIA somewhere, and then you wind up in Oval Office. Okay, that is affirmative action. You know what I'm talking about? Not to mention names. If there was one bright spot in the entire party, it was you, John Kasich. You seem to be the only one who has any common sense. And because you have common sense, and you don't appear to appeal to the hard, right-wing, nut Christian bigot type that creates people like Dylan Roof and all these mass shooters in the last 3.5 years, who lean hard to the right and hate people because of the color of their skin, that means, unfortunately, or their sexual orientation, means that, unfortunately, you are not going to be picked as the nominee for president. You are the one bright spot in the Republican Party, but you are not going to make it. But I respect you for trying. Don't shut up. Don't stop talking. Don't stop trying to reach people. I know. With Republicans, I know. Sometimes I want to just hit myself in the head with a rock and get the pain over with at once. Today's Republican Party, you pride yourself on being the party of Abraham Lincoln, Ike Eisenhower, Barry Goldwater, Teddy Roosevelt. You are nothing like any of those people. Nothing, nothing, nothing. You are trying to undo every bit of good that those people ever did. Ike Eisenhower was one who supported equal pay for women for doing the same job, the people's right to go and invest in union membership for representation as a workforce, to promote unemployment benefits. So for those who lose a job, that doesn't mean that they starve to death. He backed Social Security, which means that old people don't have to live in poverty and die off. He wanted to improve health care so everyone had access to it. Those are Republican principles. GOP, what happened? When did you decide to let the nuts totally take over for you? And then all of you up on stage, every one of you out here on the campaign trail has blamed the poor for being poor, calling them lazy, while you cut education funding, but you will give a grant of taxpayers' dollars to subsidize and build a sports stadium owned by rich people. You will cut education funding and college funding even more for those people at the lower end of the ladder. Yet you went ahead and granted 5,400 of the wealthiest people in the country with $5.5 million assets and more, another tax break of $269 million, I believe, is not even going to be paid for. But you want to balance it on the backs of veterans who are off fighting your wars that you are too chicken shit to even be a part of. And you want to cut their benefits by 20%, and you want to cut Social Security benefits by 20%, and you want to cut the food stamp program so children in this country can starve while your friends turn you into cocksuckers and hoard all the assets of the country. The richest people hoarding all the assets in the country, and you're blaming the poor for being poor? Are you for real, or are you putting on a stupid show for the rest of us? Because you are nothing like your former Republican Party. Dorin Anghelescu, forgive me for my rant. But anybody who would be stupid enough to elect any of these Republicans anymore today deserves whatever they get. I've got some errands to run. I've got to help some people move. Thank you for listening, but I just had to vent this. If you're feeling frustrated, it's understandable. Please get out and vote. Follow me on YouTube. Follow me on Facebook. Follow me on Twitter. Get out and vote. Encourage your neighbors to get out and vote. Encourage them to get involved in politics. We cannot afford to sit these out any longer. 2012 was a pivotal year. For the first time ever, we elected more Tea Party Republicans in this country who ran on a platform of it being a good idea that we round up gay people, undesirable people, whatever you want to call them, and put them in internment camps to keep the society protected from them. Really? Well, the debate that I saw of the GOP candidate in Cleveland, in televisor, up on stage, looked to me more and more like the new party trying to form the Fourth Reich. Because this was the same kind of stuff that we heard back in Nazi Germany in 1933. And Nazism was not a leftist ideology. It was a right-wing ideology. And if you think that liberals and Democrats are people who believe that they are entitled to the resources and the efforts of something that someone has worked for, stop listening to Fox News. I'll tell you the difference between a liberal and a conservative. A conservative will say, as long as it isn't happening to me, I don't give a shit. A liberal will go, if that bad thing is happening to anybody, it's why I give a shit. Okay, maybe I am not liberal, I am definitely not conservative, I am definitely more in middle of the road independent. But GOP, Republican Party, I didn't leave you. You left me. Barry Goldwater, I miss you much. I think you were the last honest Republican that there was. Okay. I need to get to work. Thank you all for listening. Have a beautiful weekend. Enjoy yourself. Dumnezeu să binecuvânteze tuturor. God bless you all. La revedere.